surrounding him that's going to open up the field more for him. He's still going to see doubles because a man that talented, he's going to get double teamed as often. But you got a great running game with Nick Chubb. You got a solid offensive line, and Jarvis Landry's a good second fiddle, and then David Njoku's a continuously rising tight end.
So you're going like B plus.
Yeah, B plus.
I don't know. I don't think his value goes up one iota. If anything, in terms of fantasy, I think his value goes down because there are just way too many mouths to feed in Cleveland, in my opinion. Baker Mayfield is obviously an upgrade. Hurts for me to say, from Eli Manning.
Okay, but who's the most talented mouth to feed though?
Yeah,
OBJ is definitely the most talented.
Okay, and then you get a guy's volume like coming from Baker, who's going to air it out.
The whole Giants offense, besides last year's Saquon, was based on Odell. Literally, the whole offense was thrown to.
Yeah, but it's a different offense considering that Eli checked down so much and his deep ball percentage was so low. It was among the league worst. And I'm an Eli fan. I'm a Giants fan. I do think it's past Eli's time. But there's no way going a Baker Mayfield offense will be worse for his fantasy value.
Yeah,
I can't.
I think
it's not Baker. It's not Baker Mayfield. I just think there's too many options. You have Njoku, you have Chubb, you have Hunt when he comes back, you have Landry, and then you have Odell.
The Steelers.
That's too many
guys. The Steelers constantly have supported 3 relevant fantasy flex players every year for the last. How long has AB been good? Like 5-6 years?
6 or 7, if anything.
Last year they had 3 top 7. Players at their positions. They had AB, Juju, and James Conner. Who
I'm giving it a C-. I think it goes. I think his.
That's just a giant homer in you.
I try to stay the unbiased Giants fan of the group. I can't imagine Odell's value is going to go down. I think if he plays 16 games this year, he'll probably be a top 5 wide receiver.
Absolutely, he's got the talent. There's very few wide receivers that have the talent to be number 1 in fantasy football and who have a good situation. He has the talent.
Nobody's questioning.
I'm not touching him. I'm not borrowing your 10-foot pole to touch him in fantasy because
I wouldn't either.
I don't like
it's
this.
It's not worth the risk.
It's
the second round.
The soft tissue injuries he's had in the last years, his hamstrings and his quads and all that stuff. I don't like that.
There goes Angelo with the scientist. Now he's an athletics trainer.
That's why me and Aquino have been successful in fantasy because we take into account people who are injury prone.
Yeah.
So we'll continue on.
Right, so you're gonna start not giving a shit about his injury proneness, and then you picked Jordy Nelson last year as a wide receiver too. Who had nothing but ACL injuries and didn't even stay on the field when he was healthy.
Injuries should not be a concern with Odell Beckham Jr. He simply did not want to be on the field with the Giants, in my opinion. Would you want to be on the field with that team? Mm-hmm. If you're trying to save your body, there's no way. There's no possible way. If you're not competing for anything, that guy wants to get back on the field and risk injuring himself even more.
Well, I don't know.
Whatever. We'll move
on. Moving on. The next guy, probably the most important of the 3, because it's a running back, is Le'Veon Bell. Who I'm going to start this. I think the Le'Veon Bell, not including last year because he didn't play, but the fantasy situation he's in, I think this is an F.
An F?
An F.
An F. That is a loud grade.
You're talking crap about me with Odell. And you're just going straight at the neck of former Steeler Le'Veon Bell.
No, Le'Veon Bell is one of the 10 best running backs.
Fan, by the way,
one of the 10 best running backs in football. One of the 5 best running backs in football. I just think an Adam Gase offense is such a slow offense, and since Adam Gase had Peyton Manning the first year where he threw the 55 touchdowns. Is that year with Adam Gase? I believe so. Whatever. His first year with Peyton Manning, they were very good offense. Since Peyton Manning is no longer his quarterback, he runs such a slow offense to a crawl. I am fading any Jets player because the offense that Adam Gase runs.
Yeah, it's not just the offense. The O-line was ranked in the bottom tier last year, so their O-line is not the best. And I don't know if you guys remember, but Adam Gase got the GM fired because they paid too much money to Le'Veon Bell. Do you think he's really gonna?
I think
boost
he's got.
Le'Veon? I know he's.
That's the interesting setup about Adam Gase and Le'Veon Bell is he's pretty much been as adamant as you could possibly be about not wanting him. Adam Gase is of the belief that you take 3 undrafted running backs and you work them to death, and you'll get just as much production as a guy like Le'Veon Bell. But I mean, I don't think you have a choice. If you're sitting Le'Veon Bell for some big snaps and then you're not winning games, you're going to get fired.
They're not going to sit him, but I think that.
Well, then at least use him.
Gase is going to try to.
I think he's going to be having guys breathe down his neck, saying we're losing games, and if they are losing games and Le'Veon Bell's not getting the ball as much as he should be, then that's going to be an issue.
I don't know. I don't think they're not going to sit Le'Veon Bell, but I think that they're going to put it on Sam Darnold more than they did last year. And the throwing attempts were not there last year as much as, Le'Veon Bell thrived in Pittsburgh because of the how many receptions did he get a game? He's basically a wide receiver.
It was.
I don't think the Jets are going to be throwing the ball as much as.
But when Sam Darnold was asked about how big it is getting a guy like Le'Veon Bell, the first thing he said is it's unbelievable having his talent level in your backfield because he felt like he was always in Ben's vision. So that's a big hint that he's going to be getting a lot of passes out of the backfield, and that's where I really think it kind of cancels out. I know he got a bunch of receptions for the Steelers, but I even see receptions going up this year because you got a young quarterback, you don't have a phenomenal line. When Le'Veon's always kind of in his sight, that's really going to equal a lot of receptions this year. And I think the running's going to go down. I can't imagine it goes up from leaving the Steelers' offensive line, but I think his fantasy value will be there.
He's going to have value, but again, we're talking about from the situation he went to the new situation he's in, and you're playing with a Hall of Fame quarterback, going from playing a Hall of Fame quarterback with a Hall of Fame wide receiver, with an up-and-coming stud wide receiver in Juju Smith-Schuster, and now you're going to a second-year quarterback who down the stretch was great, but we don't know what we got with Sam Darnold yet, and he's really the only good. He's not the only good weapon on offense, but he is the weapon.
He's the guy.
Yeah, he's the only guy that is someone's to be like, oh shoot, we have
Patriots
to plan.
are just. You know what the Patriots do? They always take away the number one player.
Yeah,
they are shutting Le'Veon Bell down.
100%. You take him out of the game, it's going to be tough. But
yeah. So let's go down next to the lower tier players that moved to a new team. We'll start off with Mark Ingram, who went from the Saints to the Baltimore Orioles. Ryan, what do you think about this in terms of fantasy?
I think this is a huge fantasy acquisition.
Great.
I think it's an A. For him, you're leaving a team that was built around. Obviously, they have Drew Brees, but they're real different than other teams. Thing about them was that they had 2 Pro Bowl running backs in their backfield. They had Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara, and now that he's going solo and he's going into a run-heavy team as is, everyone was talking about how good of a run team the Ravens were because of Lamar Jackson, because of the way they used Alex Collins last year. I can't see much of a better transition than Mark Ingram going to the Ravens. I think his fantasy value would be huge.
I'm giving this move an A in terms of fantasy because his workload is going to increase. All the Ravens do is run, and then run some more. They don't I don't see why they don't have Lamar Jackson throw the ball down the field, but
because he can't.
I think he really can't.
Oh, okay. No, he's not a good quarterback. He's not.
Fundamentally,
he's not a good quarterback.
I haven't seen a minute of film that has convinced me he knows how to throw the football at a professional level.
Okay, they're gonna run.
Exactly. I still agree with you.
No, it's a good fit.
Lamar Jackson is not a thrower.
He's an A. It's an A. It's
a
major upgrade from New Orleans. What do you think, Angelo?
There's a bunch of mouths to feed in that offense, but I definitely think I wouldn't go lower than a B, in my opinion. I just don't know how much.
What are the mouths to feed they got?
They got Dixon. They got Gus Edwards is good down the stretch. I don't know how much they're going to incorporate them, but if Mark Ingram does what he can do, and Mark Ingram given the carries he can get, it's going to be a great fantasy option. You just worry about what you saw last year in the Ravens-Chargers playoff game where they took away the run, and all of a sudden that offense was unable to do anything.
Yeah.
So
I think there are a few teams that are able to do that, though, like the Chargers will. That was a playoff game, and I think we really take playoff games with a grain of salt going into a fantasy season because more often than not, they're going to be able to do what got them there.
Yeah.
So I think, I especially think, another thing that most people aren't talking about when they're talking about Ingram is that he can catch the ball, too. And when you have a guy who can't really throw the ball that we just talked about in Lamar Jackson, a dump-off option's a great idea.
I agree. What about another big name is Jordan Howard, who went from the Bears to
I don't know if it's a big name.
Well, he's a big name.
He'll be the starting running back for the Eagles.
Solid.
I think
the Eagles. He's with the Eagles.
Yeah,
What do you get?
For him, fantasy-wise, I think it will be. I really only see him as a potential touchdown threat. I can't see him being much different than what Jay Ajayi was for the Eagles last year. Before he got hurt, and I don't think that's a giant acquisition. I think it's a C. It's not really doing much.
I would agree. If anything, it might be lower than a C because he might not get as much touches.
Yeah, I think it's a lateral move. I think it actually might be lower than a C too, like Angelo said, because Doug Peterson's known for having a running back by committee. And I just don't think he's going to get as many touches. I think he's going to get the goal line touches, but that's I think about
that's
his
really
only
where
value.
Ajay came in, and that was about it. I think was it Josh Adams who came in last year for the Eagles? That was
He was solid, yeah.
very
He was
solid.
really good, yeah.
And I really wonder, that's going to be an interesting thing to look at. I wonder if Josh Adams is someone, he's actually in my deep sleeper list this year. I think if people, I've from the eye test, I really don't think Josh Howard is much of anything. So I think if the Eagles find that out soon, there's a possibility that Adams becomes the guy officially. So there could be a ton for there.
There's another name here. We got Tevin Coleman going from the Falcons to the San Francisco 49ers. I actually think this is super interesting because Shanahan last coached Coleman back in 2016, and that year Coleman had a breakout year. I think he had 7 or so touchdowns close to the goal line. So, I mean, this guy can score the rock. The only problem is that with the 49ers, you have other options. You
got
have Breda.
3 running backs.
Yeah, you have 3 solid running backs.
McKinnon's back,
McKinnon,
and they gave him a huge contract, and he hasn't played it down yet for him. This is another very interesting setup coming.
It could be one of those things where just one guy gets hot and they just roll with him, or they just do a running back by committee.
That's what happened with Breda last year, and then you bring a guy in like Tevin Coleman, and you wonder if people in the film room really saw what we saw. 'Cause from the TV side of things, we thought Breda had a good year.
I think he averaged like 4. I think it was like 4, close to 4 yards per carry.
Yeah, and then when you bring in a free agent running back that's actually had a good career so far, is still young, you wonder what they're planning on doing with him. So,
and the thing is too is that Coleman's value has been with sharing
the rock with Devontae Freeman. Yeah.
So
but you don't sign someone to a deal, especially a running back. We don't really plan on using them. But last year they signed McKinnon. McKinnon's already having issues with his knee again this training camp. So we'll see.
Do you have anybody else on that list to a new team that you would want to talk about? Latavius Murray, Jared Cook, Randall Cobb.
I think Latavius Murray is one of the most valuable backups in the NFL. He was awesome last year.
I don't see.
For the Vikings.
I want to talk about Latavius Murray because everybody's obviously Alvin Kamara is one of the best players, if not the best player in fantasy football. But I think Latavius Murray, I don't see why he can't step into the role that Mark Ingram had.
Mark Ingram was a top running back.
I don't think they're going to want to put too much of the burden, more of the burden on Kamara's shoulders. I mean, I don't see why you would do that.
He's very young, I agree. I don't think they want to give him too many
He's young,
touches,
he's been so productive. Why risk getting him hurt or even ruining what he already has going?
I agree with you. I definitely think there was a reason they brought Murray in, and I think he could be as valuable as Mark Ingram was last year.
So, Angelo, what's the next topic? You want to talk about some first-round busts, possibly?
Yeah, so every single year there's at least one first-round pick that falls off.
Usually I pick it.
And
wait. First year I joined the league. What do you remember the pick?
Was it Eddie Lacy?
No,
first pick.
No.
Jamal
Cleveland Browns.
Oh,
Cleveland Browns.
Oh, was it
no,
Peyton Hillis?
That wasn't
Peyton Hillis.
Yes,
that was
it
back when we didn't do the league for money, and Pip picked Peyton Hillis in his post Madden cover year, which was a train wreck.
I mean, I swear, everybody. I'll let you guys know who I pick. I promise. Do not pick him. Just don't pick him.
It's a curse. It's like the Madden curse, but for Thomas' first-round pick. And then he took Jamal Charles and he tore his ACL in the first couple games.
Completely tore his
Then who'd you take? They actually had good picks last year, though. Melvin Gordon.
And McCaffrey. But then he traded McCaffrey.
He traded both of them.
Yeah.
I was probably bored in class one day and I just felt like trading, so I traded McCaffrey.
So, again, reasons not to listen to Thomas about fantasy football. He's probably going to get bored, and he's going to give you some suggestion, and it's going to lose you to the league.
So, who is the guy in the first, even picked in the first round that you guys have that might be a bust?
All right, take it away first.
I think that's Melvin Gordon.
Melvin Gordon.
I think there's so much
because of the holdout.
I think I haven't. There's definitely no good vibes that are coming from Melvin Gordon's side of things this year. I'm honestly not sure that the Chargers are going to pay him what he wants. It's definitely higher than what the current market has him valued as. And the guy's got twigs for legs. I mean, he's a professional running back who gets hurt pretty much every year from the lower half.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's telling me he's going to play 16 games this year. And then you add the lockout to this, and I see someone picking him at anywhere from 6 to 8 and having a bust on their hands waiting for it to happen.
I wouldn't be shocked if this holdout ends before the season starts. I wouldn't be shocked if he keeps back in the top 5.
He could, definitely.
I don't see why the Chargers, we talked about this on one of the earlier episodes, but I think Melvin Gordon has the leverage in this situation
No,
because
not at all.
they are.
It's a running back.
I know he's a running back, but they're a Super Bowl contender. You got to pay this guy.
They're Super Bowl contender because of Phillip Rivers, not because of Melvin Gordon. He definitely doesn't hurt him.
It doesn't hurt it.
But